I'd like to share with you today the method that I use in making my custom covers and my rounded spines. This is a custom cover that I have completed, and I'm ready to make a junk journal out of it. I have used the ridges on the spine. This is a little bit of a raised element on the front, and this is the rounded spine. This is another book, custom cover that I'll be making a journal for. Again, it has the ridges on the spine. This has a debossed image on the front and the rounded spine on the inside. Sometimes I use a rounded spine. I deconstructed this book. I love this cover. It just looks fabulous. I love the inside. I hope that I can keep the inside. It's got a nice nubby texture. I love the way this spine looks, but it's really not very sturdy, and so I created a rounded spine that I will adhere on the inside of that cover, and then when I am ready to turn it into a junk journal, the cover, the spine will be more sturdy, and I'll be able to use it as a junk journal. Here are a couple of junk journals that I've finished, and I've used a rounded spine. On this spine, I just used lace as an interest. This is a debossed image on the front, and the rounded spine I've attached these signatures to, and you can see how it opens. It really does a pretty good job of opening in the middle and that sort of thing. The next journal that I have is a journal. I've used a rounded spine. I've used the ridges on the spine. This has a little bit of a raised element on the front. I've used die cuts. And on this one, I have not attached the signatures to the rounded spine. And I'd like to show you how that opens in the middle. It opens very flat and great for writing. And that's another way that I've used the rounded spine. The chipboard that I use for my rounded spines, two weights. This is a medium weight, which is the weight of the chipboard that comes on the back of paper collections, and this is the weight of a cereal box or a rice box or that sort of thing. The other things you'll need will be some water. This is just a little spritzer bottle of water. And I add a couple of drops of glycerin to the water when I put it in the spritzer bottle, because that makes the water a little bit wetter. I also use liquid starch. In this case, I just use Stay Flow concentrated liquid starch. I use dowels, and these happen to be dowels that I used when I was sewing, and I'm not sure what the diameter is on these dowels, but there you can kind of see what that is. You want to be sure to use adhesives that are not water soluble. In this case, I use Glossy Accents and Beacon 3-in-1. Very important that your adhesives are not water based. The other thing that I use is I use a palette knife, and of course just your ordinary, I've got a 1-inch brush that I use, and your ordinary, your brayer, and that sort of thing. So let's start out with this is the heavier piece. This is the medium piece of chipboard. And the first thing I'm going to do to this, I'm going to get my dowel out, because I'm going to need my dowel. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spritz this with my water. I'm going to spritz both sides of this. You don't want it to be soaked, but you do want it to be wet. And I poured a little bit of my liquid starch in this container, and I'm just going to take a brush. I'm just going to brush that liquid starch on both sides of this piece. Is cut to measure. This particular piece is 2 by 9. And then I'm going to take this piece that's dampened, and I'm going to put it on my dowel, and I'm going to kind of push it around the dowel so that it starts flexing and bending around the dowel. I want it to be nice and rounded. And then I have these pieces of muslin that I've cut into strips, and they're kind of wide strips. And I'm going to start in the middle with this strip. And then I'm going to bring it around, and I'm going to fasten this so that that piece of chipboard is fastened around the dowel, and it is going to stay in place. And I'm going to come along, and I'm going to use another piece of fabric and push the chipboard down and bring the fabric over, snug it up, make sure it's nice and snug. And I'm going to tie it. Just want to be sure that that chipboard is kept in place. I'm going to just use my fingers here and push that down so that it goes around the dowel. And I've got a third piece of muslin that I've cut to measure, and I'm going to bring it around, and I'm going to snug it up, really snug it up. And then I'm going to take my fingers and press down on that dowel. I want to be sure that that chipboard is in a nice rounded place. I usually set mine aside and let it air dry. It doesn't really take too long. I suppose you could use a heat tool to let it dry, but I set that aside and I let it dry. And again, this piece was 2 inches by 9 inches, and so you set that aside and you want that to dry. Now while you're letting that dry, you're going to take your thinner piece. This is your piece that is the cereal box weight, and you're going to cut it to measure. This is 9 by 2, and this is a piece of Tyvek, and this Tyvek measures 5 by 9. I'm going to use ridges on this particular spine, so I've marked my placement for the ridges. On the reverse side of this, I have put a little bit of double stick tape. You want to take, on each of the edges, you want to take your adhesive, and this is my 3-in-1 adhesive. I'm going to put it on the back. Now it's real important that you have adhesion all over this piece, and so I take my palette knife and I'm going to spread that beacon adhesive all over the back of this spine piece so that there's adhesive everywhere. And then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to center it on my Tyvek. I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to use my brayer to be sure that it is adhered very well. And then I'm going to be sure it's placed like so. Okay, now at this time what you want to do is you want to measure where you're going to be placing your front cover pieces. Now I like to use 1/4 of an inch as an ease on my piece, and so I just have this. I used in sewing too. It's just a 1/4 of an inch measure. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to mark that 1/4 of an inch next to my spine piece. And again, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to mark that 1/4 of an inch next to that spine piece. These are the lines where you're going to lay your front and back cover pieces. I want to go in and I want to take the backing off my double stick tape. That will be sure that those edges are adhered to the Tyvek. Now the next thing you're going to do is we're going to prepare to make those ridges. Okay, and where I've marked those ridges will be where I'm going to place my This is crochet thread or crochet. It's not cotton. It's a acrylic or something of that nature. I'm going to come in and I'm going to put a nice generous amount of glossy accents. I'm going to take 2 of my pieces of crochet thread and I'm going to lay them side by side on that. You want to hold it in place just for a little bit because you're going to lay them side by side. And I'm going to do that to every one of these lines. I'm going to lay them side by side. I'm going to put them on the line, hold them there just a little bit. On those lines. Come down here and you do the same thing. Hold them on that line. And this is going to be where your ridges are going to show up on your spine. Again, you want to come down here and you want to put your glossy accents on, and then you take your pieces and you lay them side by side. We'll hold them there a little bit. Okay. Okay, now you're going to put that aside and you're going to let that dry. Now I have one here that is already dried, and I have to do 2 things to this. I didn't mark where I'm going to place my covers on this, but I can do that anytime. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim off. I'm going to trim off my excess crochet thread. This is thoroughly dry. I'm going to trim them off on both sides. And I failed to mark the placement for my covers on this before I put my crochet thread on, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to do that now. And again, I have my little 1/4 inch template here. I'll just come in, mark that. And again, this is where when you're going to sandwich this Tyvek between 2 pieces for your cover. And so you're going to align your first piece with this, align your first piece with this line. Okay, so that's marked, and again, that's where my covers are going to go. Okay, and again, you're going to take your water, and I have a second dowel here that I use, and you're going to take your water, and you're going to spritz this with your water, and you're going to come along, and you're going to put your starch again on this piece, and you're going to do the same thing with this piece that you did with the other piece. You're going to take it on your dowel and you're just going to lay it around your dowel. The dowel will help shape this piece, and again, I have some pieces of fabric that I have. They're kind of wide, so it can pull down the chipboard. You're going to bring it around. You're going to snug it up because you want that nice and rounded. So you're going to snug it up and put a little tie on it like that. And then you're going to do another one at the bottom. Bring it around. And these pieces of cloth, obviously, you can use over and over and over and over again. Snug it up. And take that around. And you're going to snug this one up. And again, you're going to put it to the side. And you're going to let it dry. Snug it right up. And you're going to let that dry. Okay, when you go in, you just want to press this down a little bit, like so. Okay, now when both of those pieces are dry, what you will end up with is a piece that looks like this. This is the heavier weight chipboard, and you'll have your piece like this. That is your lighter weight chipboard. And again, I need to come in here and measure. This is for the placement of my front covers, because I'll have the same. I'll have two pieces of chipboard, one that's heavier and one that is the cereal box weight, and I will sandwich this between the spine piece between the two cover pieces. Okay, so we have that done. We have this piece which has your Tyvek on it, marked for the front covers, and we have this piece that does not. Now on this piece, what you want to do is you want to come in and you want to put your double stick tape on all the edges, like so. Because you want to be sure that those edges are adhered very, very well. So you put that double stick tape on all the edges. And then on the Tyvek side, you're going to come in and you're going to put your 3-in-1 glue, your beacon glue. Nice rich coat of that. And again, you come in with your palette knife. And you want to spread that with your palette knife. Put it all over so you get a nice coating on your palette knife, on your. And then you want to take your inner piece and you want to center that on your Tyvek piece. You're going to come in, but you have that nice and centered. You're going to come in and you're going to take the backing off of your double stick tape. Sometimes it's easier said than done, isn't it? You want to be sure that that stays lined up. You're going to take your backing off your double stick tape. There we go. And you're going to come down the side. You're going to take the backing off of that. And then you're going to come up here. Obviously this backing has already started to come off. Along with the adhesive, I see. And then you're going to come over here. You're going to take this backing off. There you go. Now you have your spine. And what's left to do then is to take your cover pieces and align your cover pieces. Here, you're going to sandwich this Tyvek between your cover pieces, and there you have your rounded spine. Now I'm going to kind of show you a little cheat here, and the little cheat has to do with the first piece of chipboard that you go with. Not the one with the Tyvek, but the very first one. And this cheat has to do with a Pringles can. You take a craft knife with your Pringles can, and you take very carefully, you cut the bottom off, and you cut the top off. And that leaves you with almost 9 inches to work with. If you look at the side, you will see that the nutritional information and other information about the manufacturer of Pringles is almost a straight line. So you want to take a craft knife and you want to cut down on that straight line. Now I've cut a template that is 2 by 9, and I'm going to take this template, I'm going to line it up in that corner and put a clippy on it, and I'm going to line it up in this corner and put a clippy on it, and then I could put another clippy. Then I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to make a line, and that's going to give me 2 inches, and then I have my rounded spine already in place. That's just a little cheat that you can use for the inside piece if you don't want to make your own. I hope these little instructional pieces of information were helpful. I appreciate your watching. Thank you.